Welcome back and thank you for tuning in again. And in this video we're going to create this part using Inventor. So the most important thing that I want you to remember is anytime you have a cylindrical part that looks like this, you're going to always think a revolve command. And I don't know how else to say this, but when you're creating a revolve command, you're going to make a half of a half, if that makes any sense to you. So basically what I'm trying to explain is that half of this shape is going to be what I'm going to create. So I'm going to create half of a half. So you can see in the section view, this is half of that view cutting through. But I only need to create this top part. Now before I get really started into here, I do notice that there is one missing dimension that I am going to have to point out to you. And it's going to be the distance between this line and this line. We're going to assume that that distance is 5 since I don't see it anywhere on the drawing. So I'll go ahead and tell you that in the forehand. We're going to assume that that is 5. So let's go ahead and jump into Inventor and create this 3D model. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is I need to define how I'm going to create this shape. And I'm just going to click the new icon. I can also click the new button here. Both of them are going to do the exact same thing. So it's going to bring open a dialog box. Well, it's going to allow me to choose either inches or between millimeters. This drawing, we're going to create it as a metric drawing. So we're going to assume that the dimensions are the units of measure. In this one, it's going to be millimeters. So I'm going to select this icon here. Just double click on it. And like we always do, we give Inventor a good little time to load up for us and get ready to create this part. Okay, so after waiting a little bit, your Inventor graphic user interface should look something like this. Let's go ahead and create a sketch. And I'm just going to start by clicking this button here. And then I'm going to define which plane that I'm going to create this on. And since I'm going to spin it and I want my front view to be facing where I can see all the holes at, I'm going to start it here on the YZ plane. So I'm just going to select on that brown area there. You should see that Inventor should roll around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start creating the shape that I want. So I'm going to start off by creating kind of a weird little eye shape. Now I will caution you and be careful as I'm creating this one, and I'll try to make sure I point out some things. So let's start with the line command. I'm going to go straight across, kind of pan down a little bit. So I want to make sure I got a horizontal line. Let's go up a little bit. And then I want to make sure I tuck in, go this way. I'm going to go up. And then when I'm coming back this way, this is one of those things where you're trying to make sure you avoid certain mistakes here. So you can see I do not want to track to that midpoint, nor do I want this line to be perpendicular. So you see the little perpendicular icon. So I don't want this to be in line with anything. So I'm just going to make sure I keep it here. I'll do a left click here. Let's go up to the top. I'll go across. And then when I come down, I will keep these ones in line with each other. So I'll click here, come this way, and make sure that you don't get a perpendicular kind of angle thing that is happening here. So you can see that when I stop here, I'm getting a perpendicular. I don't want that. I'm trying to keep these as free as possible. So I'm just going to make sure that it's in line here. Do a left click. I'll come straight down. That is in line. I'll click there. Now I do need this to be in line with this one and in line with that one. So I'll left click here. And then I'll finally end it here. So once I left click here. Alright, so I do have some kind of weird little jagged shape here. Now the next thing that I'm going to advise you to do is go ahead and put your biggest dimension on here, right? I'm not going to do the overall height one yet because I have to do something special to create that one. But I am going to put my linear dimension on. So I'll go to dimension. I'll select this bottom line. I'll come down and place this dimension. And here I will type in 45. Remember that this is our first number that we're going to put in. So our first dimension, it should scale my drawing, and it does. So now everything stays together, but it will scale your drawing. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a couple of lines here to help me out. So I'll choose the project geometry icon. And then I'm going to expand the origin. And then I'm going to kind of look down here at my UCS, and I see that I'm going to use the y-axis and the x-axis. And once these highlight on the screen, I'll show you why I chose these two. So I'm going to choose the y-axis. And like I said, the z-axis. I'm sorry, I may have said the x-axis. So I'm going to choose the y-axis and the z-axis. So you see those two lines now appear. All right. So once you have that, go ahead and hit the escape button. The reason I chose this y-axis is because I want everything symmetric around this one. And then the y I chose the z-axis is that's the one I'm going to spin everything around. Okay. So those are going to be my two options that I'm going to do. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create and make these lines symmetrical to this y-axis. The way we're going to do that is use the symmetrical constraint. Once I select that, I'm going to select this line, and then this line, and then you select the line that you want it symmetric to. So once again, I'm going to select the outside line, this outside line, and what it's doing right now is since I did not restart the command, it assumes that everything is going to be in line with here. If I didn't want that to happen or I wanted to choose another symmetric center line there, I can always do a right click and then choose the restart function. But since I want them all to be symmetric on the same line, I can just keep clicking the left and right. But since I did a restart on this one, it's going to ask me for that third line. So I'll select here, here, and then here. All right. So I'll do that again. I'm just going to undo everything, and then I'm going to repeat that step again. This time, I'm just going to do it just regularly without having to do a restart, right? So I'm just going to undo. That's the top one. That's the middle one. And then that's the bottom one. All right, so we're going to go to Symmetric. I'm just going to select here, and then here, and then this yellow line. So now, this is my symmetric line that everything is going to be symmetric on. So I'm going to go here, and then here, and then finally, this one, and this one. All right. So now that I have my shape kind of symmetric, I'm going to make sure that I put some of these other lines in line with each other. To do that, I'm going to use the horizontal constraint here. So I'm going to go to horizontal, and you can see that I'm getting a preview of dotted vertical lines. So that tells me right then and there, horizontal is not the one I need. So I'm going to come back up here to the top, and I'm going to click vertical. Once I click on vertical this time, I'm going to select these dots. So I'm going to select that dot to that dot. This one to this one, this dot to this dot, and then finally this dot to that dot. All right, so all of those are now going to be in line with each other. I'm using the escape button to get out of the command. So I got everything kind of in line with each other. I can do a couple of more things if I really wanted to make this super easy on myself, like applying some equal constraints. I can go equal and say, hey, make sure that this line is equal to this one. And it's going to give me an error and say, hey, it's already over constrained, which is okay. I'm more than happy to accept that. So I'm going to go to cancel. You can see up here it's still in the equal constraint. I'm just going to check these two. And if it gives me that same error message, I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel and hit escape. All right. So everything is now in line. Everything is kind of equal to each other. Everything is set up the way I need it. Now I'll go ahead and put my diameter dimensions on here as well as some of my horizontal and vertical dimensions. I'm going to do the horizontal and vertical ones first. So I'm going to go to dimension. I'm going to choose this line here, place this dimension and tell that the distance here is 35. So I have my 45 at the bottom and I have a 35. So there's no need for you to try to put a dimension from this line to this line. If I do that, you should see an over constraint. So I'll try that anyway just to show you what I mean. If I put a dimension between this line here and then this line, and when I come up to place it, it should say, hey, you did too much, it's over constrained, which in my case, I'm just going to hit cancel. If I accept that, it's going to give me that as a reference dimension. I don't really need to have that. So I'm just going to go to cancel. All right, so I'm going to also put in the distance between these two, right? So I know that the distance between here and here is 5, as I told you in the opening. So I'm going to put a dimension between here to here. I'll click here and type in 5. So by me doing that, this automatically is 5. All right. So all of my horizontal dimensions are in place now. So let's go ahead and do the vertical. Now, this is one of those things that if you're going to create something and you want to use diameter dimensions, meaning that on the drawing you can see that the overall list of this thing is going to be 1/16. And let's go ahead and take a look at the drawing to verify all this other stuff. So now I'm just dealing with nothing but the diameter dimensions, right? So the overall one, or the tallest one I have, is 1/16. You can see I have one that's sitting at 100. I have one that's sitting at 25. And then I have one that's sitting at 50. I also have a couple of angular dimensions that I need to go ahead and place on here as well. So I can do the angular dimensions, and then I'll go ahead and put all of the diameter dimensions on here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put those angular dimensions on. So I'm going to choose dimension. I'll choose this line here. Then I'm going to choose, I accidentally hit the enter button too quick. Let me go ahead and hit cancel. Let's do that again. I'm going to go to dimension, select this line here, and then this line. You can see it gives me an angle preview. Once I have that, I'm going to select here. Then I'm going to type in 15. I'll do the exact same thing here at the top. I'm just going to select this line here, select this line, come and place the dimension, and I'll type in 15. Alright, now I have all of my dimensions. The only thing I'm left with is those 4 diameter dimensions that I was trying to explain to you earlier. Alright, in order for me to do that or set Inventor up to use diameter dimensions, what I have to do is first select this yellow line here. So let me get out of it because I'm looking up here and I see I'm still in the dimension command. So let's go ahead and escape. I select this yellow line, and then go ahead and select the center line. You can see that this line should now change and look like a center line. Alright, now when I create a dimension on this one, watch what happens. And I'm going to start with my furthest dimension up just so these don't kind of overlap, and it still might pull downward. But I'm going to choose a diameter dimension, just a regular dimension. I'm going to select this top line, and then I'll select this line here that I just changed. And when I click here, you're going to see that now it's giving me a diameter dimension. Okay? Now this dimension needs to be 1/16. It's going to kind of squish this down. That's okay. Now if yours go underneath here, that's still fine with it. Just escape out of the command, and you can still grab and pull these lines down. So you can just left click and drag them down a little bit. So if you want to make things bigger or stuff of that nature, or if this went underneath it, don't be afraid to kind of play with some of these lines and just pull them down and move them into the shape that you like. Alright, let's keep going ahead and put the rest of our dimensions on here. So I'll go back to the dimension command. I'm going to select this endpoint, and then I'm going to place it at this line, and then I'm going to click here, and this one has a number of 100. Let's go ahead and do the other ones, and I'm going to do them on this side just so I have them separated. I'm going to do a dimension, and it doesn't matter which order you select these in also. I'm going to select this line here, and this endpoint. I'll go ahead and place this dimension, and this one will be 50. And then finally I'll select this line, and then this one on the inside here, and this is going to be set to 25. Alright, so now I have all of this shape done. You can look down here at the bottom right. You can see that it is fully constrained. But before I go ahead and finish this, I'm going to do one other thing here. I'm going to escape. I'm going to select my vertical line here. And then I'm just going to make this one construction. Alright, and I just like to have a nice clean drawing, so when I come to the next step, it's not going to confuse Inventor. It already has the profile that it wants. Go ahead and go to Finish Sketch. I'm going to zoom back a little bit. And then when I choose the Revolve command, you're going to see that it's going to take this, it's going to find the profile, which it did, and it should find also this axis. Once all that happens, you should be good with it. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So I'm just going to hit the OK button. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this surface. Then I'm going to select the icon that has the green plus. Once I do that, you should see it rotate around. Next thing I'm going to do is choose a Slice Geometry command. What this is going to do is that you can see that these lines are running through my part. But when I go to Slice Geometry, it's going to cut right down to that part, to where this is at. If I kind of look at this from the side view, you're going to see that it did slice it to that. Let's go back to the front view here. And let's go ahead and place some other stuff in here. Let's go ahead and create a circle. And I want you to click on this center point here. And then I can make this circle as big as I want. I'll go to the dimension icon. I'm going to select this circle, and I'll place the dimension. And then I'm going to tell it that the dimension of this is going to be 75. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place a plus. And what I mean by plus, that means a point. So I'm going to use the point. And then I'm going to click on this quadrant at the top of my circle. So I'm going to click here. Then hit escape. Now I know you can barely see it, but if I do zoom in, there is a point located here. Alright, so I'm going to zoom back a little bit. I'm going to use the circular array command. It should ask me for what geometry I'm going to use, and I'm going to select the plus that I just created. Next thing I'm going to do is select this red arrow here and define the axis, which is going to be here. And then I need to tell it that I have 6 objects, and 6 happens to be the default. So go ahead and hit OK. Now at this point, I can go ahead and make this line construction or leave it the way it is. And since it's just going to create these circles around it, I'll leave it the way it is. Let's go ahead and choose Finish Sketch. And then let's use the hole command. Now what's going to happen when I invoke the hole command is that it's going to find those 6 points. So that's what it's going to define those holes by. Only thing I need to do is tell it how far those holes go, or if they go through all, which is this option that I have selected. So it's going through everything. And the diameter of those holes are going to be 8. So I'm just going to change this number here at the bottom to 8. Go ahead and hit OK. And at this point, we have all of this completed on this drawing. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video and learned how to revolve a part using Inventor. Okay, so stay tuned, and hopefully you're going to like what I have coming up for you next. Thank you for watching.